What's going on, Draft League fans? My name is Arahpthos, and joining me is...
What's going on, everybody? My name is Narth Vader, and today Arahpthos and I will be doing the PMC Season 4 post-draft power rankings.
Yeah, so draft's been done. Everyone has some pretty cool teams. Well, mostly everyone has some pretty cool teams. I do have some choice words about some of the lower ones, but we'll get to those when we get to those. So, yeah. Do we want to just jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, so starting off, we have at your number 16, my number 15 is Colorado Rapidash. So talk about why you had them at the very bottom.
So, the Colorado Rapidash, just before we start, I think it's safe to say that we're just because some of the drafts appear to be lower, that does not mean it's a bad draft. It means that the other drafts just are slightly better than it. In the Colorado Rapidash's case, it's still a very decent draft, but I feel like it's missing some things. It lacks very solid wall breakers. It does have Specs, Noivern, and Bandente, but you can't always run that. It doesn't have the greatest hazard removal, forcing Donphan to be the only solid hazard removal, and Hitmontop isn't that good as a hazard removal. And it's very weak to rocks, meaning Donphan's going to get pressured to bring spin almost every single week. Because Entei's weak, Noivern's weak, Regice is weak. His team is pretty weak to spikes, T-spikes, and T-spikes so likely bring because there's Necrozma. Well, it does have some excellent Mons in Mimikyu and some excellent bulk in Mega Venusaur, Muck, and Necrozma. The draft just doesn't appeal to me like the others do.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that this is just solely based on the draft, not how the players can use the draft. It has nothing to do with their skill level, just with what teams they've drafted. Another thing that I want to add to the weaknesses of their draft is that they've got 4 huge ground weaknesses in Entei, Raikou, and Lantern, and Makalola. Like, they've got 4 huge ground weaknesses and no resists, only 1 immunity, and that immunity is Noivern, which I don't consider to be a very good mon on the defensive side at all.
I think another thing with this draft is it lacks solid recovery, only with Necrozma and Mega Venusaur having recovery, and oftentimes Necrozma is going to be toxic because that's how some teams are going to choose to shut down Necrozma. So it's going to be very hard to Mega V to fully utilize his team properly, in my opinion.
Yeah, also, fire looks like a very big problem for the team. Again, Noivern is a resist, but Noivern isn't a switch-in. And Mega Venusaur, while it is hit neutrally by fire, nothing really wants to be taking it. And Entei is kind of the only thing that I think would be a switch into a Flare Blitz from Darmanitan, like just other strong fire-type moves.
I guess that's pretty much to say about the Colorado Rapidash draft. It's not a bad draft, but in our opinion, it could be better. On my number 15 spot and Arahpthos' number 16 spot, we have the Sydney Krookodiles, and that's coached by Sharp. So what do you have to say about this draft?
Oh boy, so I was very, very underwhelmed with this draft. I'm not going to pull any punches on it immediately. It is incredibly weak to ground, once again. Mandibuzz being the only switch-in for ground moves. It's very ghost weak, with, once again, Mandibuzz being the only switch-in. It's got very poor hazard control, because I think if I'm remembering right, Mandibuzz is the only form of hazard control on the team. So basically, his entire draft just leans on this one mon for the defensive side, while he's got fantastic wall breakers in Kieran Black and Mega Gardevoir. He just really does not have the defensive backbone to back that up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and 2 things I could say with this draft as well. For one thing, it has a lot of Pokemon that start with M, so that's kind of cool. I'd like to point that out. But his draft is also very, very slow, and his 2 fastest Pokemon, actually, there's one Pokemon that breaks the 100 speed tier. 100 speed is average speed, and that's Liepard, and Liepard's that low tier mod, that niche pick that you only bring a couple of matches. So his team is going to get outpaced a lot, and it's going to force him to run a Scarfer or dual Scarfers almost every single week, and that's not what you want to do, especially when he has fantastic wall breakers in Sheer Force, Life Orb, Nidoking, Ben the Champ, Chandelure, Kyurem Black, Gardevoir, Magnezone. He has a lot of offensive pressure that he can exert on teams, but I feel like he should dial that down, pick up some hazard removal, and I think this team can definitely be very threatening, but that's the reason it's very low in this power rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't really expand more on that. Yeah, so I do think that, yeah, with some right transactions, this team could go from being my bottom team to being pretty high up there. Because, again, outside of the defensive backbone, it is fantastic, but the defensive backbone is just not there at all, so it just absolutely plummets. Anyway, so move on to your number 14, my number 12, the Hamilton Torracats, coached by, I don't know.
Mego. Mego is known for picking some unique mons here and there. I've been in a couple of leagues with him, and he's definitely a very unique battler and a very unique prepper. And he definitely has a decent draft, and he's got. But I think he's had solid hazard removal in Zapdos and Decidueye. Fantastic wall breaker in Terrakion and Z-Volcarona. He's got some decent walls in Registeel and Granbull and Mega Slowbro. It's a very good draft, but I feel that his hazard removal is going to get pressured a lot. And his bulk, it's okay, but it's not the best. And I don't know, it's not that it's a bad draft, but I feel like the other drafts just do a lot better than this draft would, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. There is the fact that he only has Defog as hazard control, which would be fine, except he's got Drapion and Volcarona, so he can't really hazard stack while reliably keeping Volcarona safe. So that's kind of a bit of dissonance in the overall drafting right there. And Volcarona is his designated Z-Mon, so it is an offensive powerhouse that he does see himself bringing to most games. So, yeah.
Also, I feel like while he doesn't auto to wish pass into his walls like Redstone and Granbull, his ground/dragon type isn't the best in Zydog, because Zydog doesn't really hit that hard. And he needs to hit hard with a band or a couple of boosts. It's very hard to get a couple of boosts up because it's quite far out. And this is also Volley, which is it's a bit of a it's not big. It is a niche pick in the draft format. And while you do have access to all memories, which is what they're called, it's not the best pick in my opinion. I think we should pick up a spinner over Silvally. I think this draft has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. Very, very much agree. Like, Silvally can be good if used right, but again, like, it's probably not going to be used right.
Yep. I think that's pretty much it for the Hamilton Torracats. Anything else you have to add? Or?
No, you pretty much hit on all the points that I wanted to hit on. So that's good.
Alright, so in both of our number 13 spots, we have Iceolate. He's the coach of the Great League Greninjas. We have him in the 13th spot. And what do you have to say about his draft?
He has three walls that rely heavily on Eviolite, so already he's beginning to be very weak to knockoff. So he's got the Dusclops, he's got the Golbat, and he's got the Porygon too. He's also got Blastoise, which would like to run an Assault Vest, but like having that knocked off isn't too big of a deal. He does have really good hazard control, like he can run Hypercutter Gliscor if he wants to. He's got a great Rapid Spinner in Blastoise and a really good Defogger in Golbat, because like it is very fat. But again, like Trick, Switcheroo, Knockoff, like, all of these things can absolutely cripple his main defensive backbone. Yeah. You got anything?
What sets Jonah's draft apart from the lower tier, or the lower drafts, is he's got fantastic speed, unlike the other drafts. Megasepta base 135, Tapu Koko base 130, Salazzle base 118, Lycanroc midday base 112, Jirachi base 100, and then he's got like Golbat 90, Blastoise 78. So like, while it forces like some of the lower tier mons to potentially run like an attack boosting nature, like definitely the higher tier speed mons, it definitely doesn't allow them to run an attack boosting nature, which is very good. But again, his team is very weak to knock off. You know, Salazzle is pretty frail, Gliscor prefers Toxic Orb, Jirachi is weak to Dark, P2, Dusclops, and Golbat do not want their Everlight knocked off. Blastoise appreciates his item. The only real knockoff switch-ins he has is Tapu Koko and Megasepta, which aren't the bulkiest Pokemon. So, your stats.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. One thing that I would like to add, which is more of like a comment on the whole drafting process, is how he got Tapu Koko so late in the draft is beyond me, but he got it, so it's pretty good. Lasted middle of the second round, which is pretty nice. But yeah, it's pretty much the main thing. Like, knockoff weakness is why this team is so low. Because like, outside of that, as you said, it's got great speed, and so long as they're not knocked off, great defense. So yeah.
Yeah. Tapu Koko isn't bad as well. You know, top 1 EMZ, the Guardian role is pretty decent. Decent coverage. Can run some like C Bravebird or ZT bolts. It's alright, I guess, but
yeah.
I just feel like this draft needs like it needs to fix the knockoff switch-ins, and it would need to really. I think his draft will also be decently weak to like a bulky psychic type that could set up. Because like, yes, they're Scrafty, but some psychic types have the courage to hit Scrafty as well, so I'm not really too sure about that.
Yeah, Dazzling Gleam. Take it out quite nicely. Yeah, but that's pretty much all I've got to say about the Great Lake Greninjas. Did we want to move on to the Oregon Duckletts?
Yeah, so I have the Oregon Duckletts at the number 12, while Arahpthos has them at number 9. The reason I chose to put Johnny GB's draft at number 12 was, again, it's not a bad draft, and it's very powerful with threats like Zyger 50%, Thunderous Incarnate, Volcanion, Gengar, Nidoqueen, Mega Pinsir, SD Cabalion, even Specs Melwood. He has fantastic wall breakers, and some of his wall breakers can even pass as bulk, because, you know, it's really bulky and it's really offensive. The only problems with it is it's incredibly weak Stealth Rocks. You know, Thunderous Incarnate, Mega Pinsir, and Volcanion, three of his core mons, immediately take 25 to 50%, depending on, you know, if Pinsir's Mega Evolve or not, and that's really crucial. And his hazard remover isn't the best in Togetic and Hitmonchan, because Togetic can get taunted, and Hitmonchan can get spin blocked because it doesn't have the coverage or enough powerful coverage to hit ghost types. And then, you know, he's also Ice Weak, Zyger 50%, Thunderous Incarnate, Nidoqueen, Togetic, Mega Pinsir. Yes, he has resistance in Thick Bat Miltank, Volcanion, and Cabalion, but those aren't the best ice resists, because, you know, Volcanion is weak to rock, so it takes 25%, plus maybe like a 10 to 15% from Icy, and that's already a clean 40% off, so Volcanion's not a good switch-in. Cabal will get pressured and doesn't have recovery, and Miltank isn't exactly an ice switching because most of the time ice types are going to be, like, most ice attacks are special, I'm pretty sure, like hitting power ices and things like that, so Miltank doesn't exactly want to switch into that because it's more of a physical wall than a special wall. Like, it's very good draft, but it just gets pressured a lot by ice types and stealth rocks, and that's why I decided to put it at the number 12 spots.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Like, you've just pretty much read off everything in my note sheet there. I did want to, like, defend why I put them so much higher, and that's because I think that the versatility options in Zygarde 50%, Thunderous-Eye, Nidoqueen, and Cobalion are very, very good to be breaking walls. Like, Zygarde, it can be Banded, it can be D-Dance Coil. It has a lot of really good options, especially in Gen 7 after getting 1000 Arrows. Thundy-Eye, I think, especially with that Z Crystal, it can have a very strong Gigavolt Havoc. It can get a speed boost from a Z Rain Dance, and sweep from there. It can also, just be very good as a defog switch in. Not that anyone would really want to be defogging rocks on his side of the field, but it is very nice. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to explain on what you said.
I do agree. His offense is very, it does pressure a lot of teams, so maybe the rocks won't be too bad, and his offense might even be so good to where it can pressure his opponents to not set up rocks, because he does have some taunt support in Thunderous Incarnate, Nidoqueen, Valiant. I believe that's it for taunt users, but that's, like, those taunt users are pretty incredibly fast, so...
Gengar.
Actually, Nidoqueen's not fast, but, like, maybe, but we'll have to see. Maybe Johnny GB can prove me wrong. But that's pretty much it.
Yep.
So, for my number 11, I guess it's your number 11 too.
Yep.
We both have the new Cosmog, coached by Phantombass. Looking at Phantombass's draft, I think the one thing that can just immediately set him off is Magearna. There's a lot of discussion this generation to where is Magearna busted or not. And in my opinion, yes, it is busted, but I know I'm going to get some controversial, but I don't think it's ban-worthy. But, there's not the video for this. Magearna is definitely threatening with Trick Room, and it's also Zmon and Calm Mind, and just being a flat move with specs. We've got some other impressive wall breakers, like Mega Alakazam, and Salamence, and Talonflame, with an SD. Mamoswine's also there. Not the best hazard removal, because he's downwise, and he does have a Salamence and a Talonflame. He has Blissey, which is, I guess it's okay, but set up far better in my opinion. He's a Dog Trio as well, which is a good trapper. And I guess he has Arrow too, which can Wish Pass, helping Magearna. It's a good draft, but he doesn't have the best hazard removal. I can definitely see T-Spike's offense completely running over his team, and I feel like his passive ones in Weezing, Blissey, and Alomo can definitely cause some problems, as they're most likely going to be set up fodder unless he's going to run like some sort of tech move, and even that move on, which could potentially set up, might not even bring that's a waste of move spot right there on his walls.
Yeah, again, you've pretty much read off my notes word for word. He does have another form of hazard control in Defog and Salamence, but that's not really a plus side of the draft if you're looking to Salamence as a defogger. But yeah, another thing about Dhelmise, you can bait it in and just Pursuit Trap it with whichever mono you're choosing, which is kind of a problem for it, because you can just set up the rocks later where they can't spin again, which is not overly fantastic. I do like teams that do draft Mamoswine, because that Pokemon has almost nothing that can switch in on it. It's a very, very good wall breaker. I do think that drafting Talonflame, though, is kind of a waste of a tier 4 pick, because Gale Wings is absolutely destroyed this generation. Stealth Rock, again, because like the hazard control is just not there. It's going to mean that Talonflame doesn't get its priority. It's might as well just be running Flame Body every week, and Talonflame is really not that strong. Without that priority boost, it's really got nothing going for it. I don't think so, anyway.
Also, I found the speeches a little weird. Like, yes, he has Megazam with 150, and then Talonflame 125, or 126. And Persian 150, Dugtrio 120. And then it drops to Salamence at 100. And then leaving, I guess that's alright, and then drops to Mammal Swine 80, which allows like base 81 to 84, like those, maybe like it allows some of those base 80 speakers to potentially run attack boost in nature. Like so things like Nidoking could potentially run Modest, and looking at his draft, a mixed Nidoking kind of tears this team apart. You know, superpower publicity and then like special coverage, it nukes his team.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like it's a good draft, but it's not the best, and his walls are passive. That's why he's number 11.
Yeah, 100% agree with what you're saying. So yeah, we can't really expand on that. Moving on to your number 10 and my number 14, we have the Orlando City Serperiors. And it would have been nice if I got the draft up. Yeah, so, the Orlando City Serperiors, they've got... A reason why I have them so low is that their hazards aren't really all there. They've got Flygon to set Stealth Rocks, and they've got Isolate to set Spikes. So, you're not really going to be being able to have all your hazards up, which means that they're probably going to be relying on one more than the other, and Isolate is kind of a bringing 5 Mons and 2 layers of spikes to each battle. Yeah. I do think that having only Defog as your hazard control, like he's got 3 Defoggers in Tapu Fini, Scizor, and Flygon. I think Swallow also gets Defog, but ignoring that fact right now. Means that he can't really stack spikes and keep hazards off his side of the field, so Toxic Spikes have kind of a field day against him because Tapu Fini gets its terrain up after getting poisoned from it. And just regular spikes also pressure his team quite a lot, so he can't really be spike stacking, which means that Isolate isn't going to be doing a lot for him. Fast electric types also have an absolute field day with this team, because we've got Tapu Fini, we've got Swallow, they're normally going to have a Hidden Power Ice, so Flygon isn't really a good enough switch-in, unless it is Scarf, and, yeah.
The reason I have them a little bit higher is because while, yes, there has, or actually Flygon is in the Stealth Rock, so Stealth is the only hazard setter.
Okay.
Sorry. I like the speakers, it's pretty nice, but the thing that's very nice is I'm a big fan of Voltorb. They have Scizor in U-turn, Darmanitan in U-turn, Swallow in U-turn, Flygon in U-turn, Mega Man Extra, Volt Switch, Isolate U-turn, and Bassemi U-turn. This team just screws momentum, and it's going to be very hard for an opponent to gain momentum back, and you can't exactly pull doubles with this team because he just has momentum. And you know, Tapu Fini's Misty Terrain is wonderful for this team. Prevents Toxic on Umbreon and Duskor, which is really nice. Prevents crippling T-Roots on Scarf Bassemian, Salgor, Darmanitan. Prevents Key Burns on Scizor and Flygon. Hazard removal isn't the best, but it's okay. I'm going to somewhat disagree on the fast electrics. It depends on the sort of team he brings. Serperior can switch in very nicely depending on the electric type. Bulky Flygon with a certain berry is alright. Megametric actually does well against electric types, because it's very bulky, and with Umbreon's Wish Support, and Umbreon just does fantastic against electric types, unless they have a fighting type coverage, which most electric types don't have. And with Umbreon Wish supporting is other walls like Duskar and Tapu Fini, which don't get reliable coverage. I'm a big fan of this draft. The only thing I don't like about this draft is the hazard setting and Passimian. I think Passimian, it's not the best fighting type in Tier 5. I think there are a lot better ones. And maybe he could pick up a Spinner or a Walker in Tier 5. But other than that, I'm a big fan of this draft, and that's why I have placed at number 10. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Alright. You've made your case. I have them a bit low. I'll freely admit being a little wrong there. And yeah, so I think we'll move on to your number 9 and my number 6. Everything from basically number 9 to number 5 is all shuffleable for me. Actually probably number 10 to number 9, like they're all, I think, of kind of equal status. So anyway, your number 9 and my number 6 is San Antonio Victreebels, so you want to take it away from there?
Alright, so San Antonio Victreebels, coached by Arki. Looking at the positives of this draft, Z-Manaphy is fantastic in this generation. With access to Z-Rain Dance, allowing it to gain a +1 speed and potentially Calm Mind setup and rest. Sylveon and Amoonguss, very fat, and Ridiculous too, so he's got a bit of a regen core. Sylveon can wish pass into things like Fortress, and which doesn't get reliable cover, and Fortress is fantastic hazard setter. He's got a Mega Charizard X, fantastic breaker. He's got some U-turn in Volt-turn in Vakavolt, or Vikavolt, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Vikavolt, Fortress, Gligar, and Mienshao. It's the couple things that don't make this draft though is it does get pressured by Stealth Rocks in Mega Charizard X, Sneasel, and Vikavolt, and Fortress is a good spinner. It can get spin blocked very easily, and while you do a Volt Switch to kind of negate the spin block, you'll still get pressured by hazards eventually. I feel like this draft is going to have to rely a lot on Mega Charizard X and Manaphy, or Mega Charizard X, Manaphy, and maybe even Sneasel or Vikavolt trying to break a lot of the weeks, and I feel like in terms of what he's going to bring, it's somewhat predictable, because oftentimes it's going to be Manaphy, it's going to be Mega Charizard X, 2 out of the 3 in Sylveon, Amoonguss, and Ridiculous, maybe even all 3, and then the last 1 or 2 slots is going to be Mienshao, Sneasel, Gligar, and then, one of the other niche picks, I guess. And he also has Quagsire, which I'm not a big fan of Quagsire. It isn't very good in my opinion. While it does have Unaware, it's just not that good. It doesn't really hit that hard. It's very passive, and while you can't set up on it, you can always sub up, I guess, and I'm just not a big fan of Quagsire. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agreeing with you there, especially on the Quagsire thing. Yeah, but why though, Arki? But why though? Yeah, Fortress being his form of hazard control means that random hidden power fires will be really good for the team, just to get rid of that. He did plan for that, I think, in drafting like the Quagsire as well, although Quagsire was drafted before, but like also having Manaphy and Zard X as fire switch-ins, but again, like it's kind of fine so long as hazards stay up on his side of the field. I think that's what the opponents would be going for. Yeah, so not the best. He's probably going to be relying on Defog on Gligar a little bit more for hazard control than he would for Rapid Spin on Fortress. Yeah, you're reading off my notes here. Yeah.
So number 8, in my number 8 slot, Raptors number 10 slot, we have the Virginia Tech Froakies coached by Jake. I do like the draft that Jake has. It's got some very powerful mons in Garchomp, Mega Gallade, Greninja, Thunderous Darien. It's very, very powerful, and it's got fantastic walls in Tangrowth, Klefki, Vaporeon, even some of those. Alright, I guess walls-ish. You know, it's also got Piloswine, Mespritz, Crobat somewhat, I guess, and Gigalith. And, you know, another cool thing is Gigalith Hysterical Sand gives Garchomp Sandville. I don't know if that's allowed, but that's kind of cool. You know, decent speed tier is 130 with Crobat, 120 Crobat, 122 in Greninja, 110 Mega Gallade, 102 Garchomp. Very good. Good walkers. Wish Passer, it's very nice. But, you know, I feel like what he can bring is also similar to Arky, to where it's going to get predictable somewhat. Garchomp, Gallade, Thunderous T, 2 of his 3 or 4 walls, a walker, you know. It's a very good draft. It's also little walks weak in Thunderous Darien and Crobat, which, you know, 2 of his core mons are weak to hazards, and his only hazard removal is Crobat, which I believe that's correct. Yeah, and that's also weak to rock, so it's going to pressure Crobat a lot. You know, I definitely see T-Spikes definitely hindering this team a bit to do with Vape and Tangrowth. Again, not many teams are going to have T-Spikes, but I definitely see T-Spikes has potential to combat this team if the opposing draft does have T-Spikes. And, you know, that's kind of why I have that at number 8.
Yeah, I also have them down at number 10. The main thing that put them down there for me was drafting Klefki and, like, having that rock weakness and only having Defog as your hazard control. Klefki, I think, is only really good for stacking spikes. It can set screens, which is nice, but I don't think it's worth a tier 2 pick just solely for that. And, well, voice is gone. Yeah, it's not worth a tier 2 pick solely for setting screens and stacking spikes that you're going to get rid of eventually, if hazards begin to be a problem for your team. But other than that, yeah, I agree with everything that you've put down. Yeah, I do really like the offense in Garchomp, Mega Gallade, and Thundy T. Like, that's all really, really good. Yeah. It's kind of awkward going second because, like, I have all this stuff that I've written down and all this hard work, and you just recite it off, and it's just like ticking everything off. It's just like, can't talk about that, can't talk about that.
Would you like to go first then instead?
It would be nice. So both our number 7s, I believe. Yep. Both our number 7s, we have the New Orleans Night Daze, and that's not the New Orleans Night Daze. That's the... Where are they? Ah, there we are. So yeah, New Orleans Night Daze. So I really, really like Z-Move Mew in Draft League format. Mew is just like a phenomenal Pokemon for it because it can be very, very defensive, but it also gets access to every single TM, which means that it can absolutely crush walls with unexpected Z-moves. Like, an all-out pummeling off of Focus Blast is very, very good. A Sub-Zero Slammer off of Blizzard is very, very good. I believe that Medium Z is banned in this league. I'm only working off the assumption. I don't think I've read that anywhere, but so that can't be run, but outside of that, it does get access to some very, very good Z moves. This team does suffer from not having a lot to switch into fire, because in terms of fire weeks, you've got Mega Scizor, you've got Serena, Frostlass, Bronzong if it's not heat proof, and Steelix, which isn't all that fantastic. You do have ArkiKnight and Primarina as a switch-in. Primarina, probably you don't want to be switching that into a lot of heavy hits, so that puts a lot of pressure onto ArkiKnight and Toxapex as well as a switch-in, but on top of that, like, both ArkiKnight and Toxapex are both weak to Earthquake, so if you do have that fire ground coverage, you can sort of run through the team. I'm mainly thinking in terms of Arky's Megazard X, but there could be other Pokemon that choose to, other teams that choose to utilize that kind of coverage against his team. You also, the reason why I say Bronzong if it's not running Levitate, the reason why I want to stress that is that outside of Levitate Bronzong, he does not have a ground switch-in. Well, does have a ground switch-in, doesn't have a ground immunity. What do you say?
Oh, Serena.
Yeah, that's why I said immunity. I wanted to talk to immunity, but Serena is a switch-in, but yeah. So yeah, kind of a little shaky on the defensive side. Also featuring Chansey and Toxapex. Actually, no, not Toxapex. I guess it's featuring Chansey. Like, you've got a huge setup fodder.
Oops, sorry.
You've got a huge setup fodder sitting on your side of the field, which really isn't all that fantastic for you. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say.
Yeah, Chansey. Not too big of a fan of Chansey. Sub fodder. He does have some very nice mons in Mew and Mega Scizor, which week in, week out can be a win condition, or just a very stable Pokemon and just a very reliable Pokemon to bring. Bronzong, even though it's low trip pick, it's also very reliable. He's got good rockers, actually a lot of rockers in Mew, Bronzong, Chansey, Steelix. He's got Toxic Spikes in Toxapex, and Spikes in Frostlass, and he has Hazard Removal and Serena, Mew, and Mega Scizor. So his Hazard game is very, very good, and that's what I like. And Toxapex is actually, I think, very underrated in the draft league format, because while it can be set up for it does have haze. It can run some niche tech moves to get out of sticky situations. Steelix isn't a bad pick at all. It's also got a nice Gunk Elder. I really like this draft. Again, it's not the best, set up for Chansey, but it's, in terms of the other drafts that were lower placed, I think this draft is more balanced. It's more unpredictable, and it can be good, and I can't wait to see what luck he can bring with this team this season. For 7.
Yeah. So moving on, your number 6, mine number 5. Lowland Nidoqueen. So, did you want to start us off?
Alright, so the Lowland Nidoqueens goes by the ground die score. First thing I see, Staraptor. It's my favorite Pokemon. It's my mascot. I'll go a little bit more into that after about him. So, right off the bat, you see the first 3 picks in Latios, Mega Aggron, and Florges. A very impressive, very Dragon Steel for, because Florges can Wish Pass into Mega Aggron, which Mega Aggron desperately needs to recover. Latios is a fantastic Pokemon, especially with Z eligibility. Infinite is nice, but I feel Latios is better because Infinite can break without Z moves. Latios has a little bit of a harder time. A Calm Mind Latios with the Z move is very, very nice. It can even break things like P2, which it normally could with a Z move. But he's got some very nice picks after that, like Seismitoad, which also appreciates Florges Wish Passing. Very good hazards and hazard support in Mega Aggron Rocks, Infinite Stealth Rock, Tentacle Toxic Spikes. Seismitoad, Walks, and then you have a Defog from Latios, Rapid Spin for Tentacle, Spin.
That's a problem.
And
okay, you're gonna be pretty annoyed with me. Up to the point where you said spin blocker, you just cut out completely. I don't know if it was my internet or your internet, but I heard nothing from you up to this point.
Wait, I think, so, Spin Block for Gorgeist. And I was talking about speeches after. He's got decent speeches in base 130 Jolteon, base 110 Latios, base 108 Infernape, base 105 Zork, very decent. Good fire, water Gliscor, very structured, well. I really like this team a lot. And he's got some good reliable win conditions, which is very good. And week in and week out, I know his team can be unpredictable and different, and just very, very good at a lot of matchups. And that's why I like this team a lot. And that's why I ranked him number 6 for my rankings. And you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah. So I had them at number 5. Like, I really like this team. Like, normally I don't think Zorok is a great draft pick, just because normally you can see it when it comes in. Like, hazards are normally up. Like, you can kind of predict where it's going to be. However, I do really, really like it on this team. It has a lot of different things that it can disguise itself as, in order to get better matchups. Like, people, like, you're still going to see in team preview that Zorok is there, but not knowing where it is, I think this team in particular gives such a good advantage. Like, I cannot really pick something that I don't like. I do think that Infernape could use the Z Crystal a bit better than Latios, but you think the opposite, and like, I also agree with your reasoning on that. Like, I don't think it would be much better. That's just a very, very, very nitpicky thing to pick, but yeah, I really, really love this team. I think it's really good.
I think overall the team is very good. Good wall breakers, good support, good bulk, Straptor. Just very, very good overall, and that's why he's very high in our power rankings. And then for my number 5, and for Arahpthos is number 8, we have the Bird. He's the coach of the Tampa Bay Frogadiers. And the reason I have him a little bit higher than Arahpthos does is I'm a very big fan of what he drafts. It's a little unusual, but his draft is very, very powerful right off the bat in 3 tier 1 picks in Renderstone, Celesteela, and Weavile. Those 3 mobs are just fantastic overall. And Renderstone and Celesteela are fantastic together. It can help with patch up each other's weaknesses. Landers T is very good offensively, Celesteela, and defensively, so Celesteela. Weavile is fantastic in boasting wonderful offensive stabs and decent coverage. On base 125, he's got like a Suicune, a Uxie, a Cofagrigus, a Chestnut, a Lickilicky, a really nice bulk, and Lickilicky can wish pass into things that don't have reliable recovery. And so also Lickilicky is a base, it's a tier 5 mon for some reason, which I feel like leagues should start bumping it up to a tier 4. Because Lickilicky is very good, a lot of coverage, wish, sword dance. It's very good at what it does, and it's very versatile. And for this team, Lickilicky is a very good member for this team. He's also got a Mega Outpost, which I do like, and thanks to Wall Breaker, that means only ground types can deny the Volt Switch, I believe. I believe that's right. Dragon, nice base 165 Dragon Pulse or T-Bolt is very hard to switch into. Coupled with Landers and Weavile, there aren't many things that would like, in combination, that they would like to switch into this. decent hazard support in Rocks, Landorus third, and Arbalto, and I believe Barbile as well. He Spikes Frogadiers and Spikes Chestnuts. He's also a Barbile. I don't think that's hazard support, I will admit, but I just like this draft a lot. And Zealander T is just a phenomenal threat in this generation. With the access to Z-moves, it finally grants it a fantastic flag stab, which allows it to break its once checks in bulky grass types like Tangrowth. They're really good, and that's why I got a number 5 spot this week. No, this power rankings, I guess.
Yeah, basically, while the draft was going on, and like he didn't deviate this from it at all I can think is that this team is fat plus a Weavile. I think that the lacking good hazard control, his only form of hazard control is Rapid Spin on Armado, which is not... I don't think Armado's really good. So he needs to be relying a lot on berries and rest in order to stop, and also like his Licky or his Heal Bell in order to stop being very weak to Toxic and Toxic Spikes. But yeah, Lando T with a Z move, like as you said, is absolutely destructive. It's got a very strong Continental Crush, very strong Tectonic Rage, and a very strong Supersonic Sky Strike. And yeah, it can also... yeah, what was I going to say? I totally blanked on what I was going to say, so well, never mind on that. But yeah, I think that the lack of decent hazard control puts that team far further down for me than what Narth ranks it.
I think maybe number 5 is a little high, but I think I can support it, and I know Verd is a very good coach / player, so I have faith in Verd. I know he's going to do great things this season, and maybe even reclaim his title for this league. But yeah, number 4, which finally we start to have a little bit of the same rankings. Number 5, we have the number 4. So we have the Mastodon Gastrodons, and we can go ahead because they're in first a lot. So
yeah, it's fine. So Mastodon has Gothitelle, which I think is a very, very strong pick. Being able to trap things that give your team a lot of trouble, and being able to trick walls like a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs in order to stop them really being a huge pain, I think that is very, very strong. And like with that alone, his draft is already pretty damn good, I think. I really love the offensive and defensive combination that Tapu Bulu plus Nihilego allows. Nihilego not having the best physical defense, but having phenomenal special defense, as well as Tapu Bulu having really good physical defense, and the typing synergy, like Grass Fairy compared to Poison Rock, I think is very, very, very strong. I absolutely love it. Mega Medicham, I think, is kind of a drawback on this team, which is why I couldn't really put it any higher. Like, even though he does have the sticky webs to support it, that means that he needs to bring Galvantula if he wants to use Mega Medicham very well, which I know that it can be a very good wall breaker, but this is more, I know how Mastodon plays, and I know that he's probably going to want to be using Mega Medicham as a sweeper as opposed to a wall breaker. Moltres is also, like, I think it's a really good tier 4 pick for this team. It does pressure his hazard control, which is Defog from Empoleon and Rapid Spin from Sandslash. Sandslash is a pretty mediocre spinner, and Defog rids himself of the sticky webs, so that is kind of a problem. But I do think that the Z move on Moltres can really pay its dividends for him. So yeah.
Like I said, Moltres being a Z user is very, very good actually, and it's a very good mod that supports this team. And Moltres is very underrated because a lot of teams don't see it coming because they think they can just put Stealth Rocks and deal with Moltres that way. And to be honest, it's not going to work like that because Moltres is actually generally bulky, and its unique Fire Flying typing allows it to deal with very annoying fighting types, steel types, fairy types. It's actually very good mod defensively as well, surprisingly. And with his Z-move as well, Z Sunny Day is a threat, Bloom Doom is a threat, Supersonic Sky Strike, Z Hurricane is a threat. It's very, very hard to switch into a Z Moltres. He's also got Lanoon, and don't sleep on Lanoon because with the Gluttony boost this generation, with the Super Berries, which is what they call in VGC, the Figgy Berry, Papa Berry, those things can really help Lanoon, and now with those berries, it gives Lanoon a lot more bulk to support. And base 100 Dijo Sweeper, it's very hard. The only thing that kind of, and he doesn't really have to rely on pulling this Sandslash as Hazard because he has Galvantula, and that's really to say because Galvantula has sticky webs. So a lot of teams would like to get rid of the webs because they don't want to deal with it, so their wall breakers have an easier time. And a lot of the teams all the drafts that we've gone over, most of the hazard move is actually defog over Rapid Spin, so that's a thing. And maybe he could sacrifice the webs for the rocks, and I think that might be a strategy that Mastodon could go for. The thing that does set Mastodon's team back and could have placed it higher is that his team is very knockoff weak, because he has 3 psychic types, and yes, only 2 of them are weak to Duck, but there's still a lot. Guja really appreciates its item, Empoleon really appreciates Lefties or its Berry, Sandslash appreciates its Assault Vest or anything. It's not really good knockoff-wise. Hoopa's a cool pick. I really like Hoopa. I'm really hoping Mastodon can use that well. But, it does get Pursuit Trap variously. But, I'm really looking forward to see what Mastodon can bring this season, after being the runner-up of last season. So, yeah, it's season number 4 spot this week of Power Rankings.
Yeah, fair enough. Also, yeah, another reason why I really like the team. Like, you really like Staraptor, I really like Tapu Bulu, I really like Goodra, and Nihiligo's pretty cool as well, so, that might improve my bias a little there. But yeah, really good team. I quite like it, and I do agree that the knockoff weakness is kind of a problem, and also HP on Moltres. Like, while it is bulky at 50%, like, you don't necessarily need the HP on Moltres to win the game. Like, you can win on 1 HP, that's fine. Yeah. So, move on to your number 3 and my number 1. The Boston Kommo-o. So, do you want to take this from start?
Yeah, so the Boston Kommo-o, coached by LevineMa, straight off the bat, you see kind of like Red's team, where he has just 3 fantastic picks: Clefable, Larios, Skarmory. That's incredibly nasty and incredibly bulky Fairy Dragon Steel Core. With Clefable, actually, all of them have reliable recovery. 2 of them can set up hazards. 2 of them can defog hazards. All 3. 2 of them hit generally hard, Clefable with Magic Guard, Life Orb, and Larios. All 3 of them can be sweepers. Yes, Skarmory can be a sweeper too with SD Weak Armor, depending on the matchup. It could actually pull it off, but it's very hard, I guess. It's very, very annoying to deal with. And then you have a very underrated and a good Mega this generation, Mega Tyranitar, because it can set sand, even though it doesn't have Sand Sweeper, which is a little weird. But Mega Tyranitar actually hits incredibly hard, very good coverage. Stealth Rock, T-Wave, very good bond actually. And then you have like Rotom Wash, which is a fantastic pivots to get things in, like Clefable or Larios to set up blocks. Little Marowak, a very good brick with thick club, and can set up blocks. Krookodiles can also set up blocks. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, these 5 stealth uppers, which is always nice to have. and spamming knockoff is very, very good. Bruzion, very cool pick, a really nice grass type. Zangoose, very underrated as well. Toxic boost, facade hits incredibly hard. Lone Sandflash, it's a pretty nice niche pick. I'm not sure how much Stoutland is worth, but maybe dropping Stoutland for Zangoose could be possible if Stoutland is a tier 5. Also using Heracrossnite, so with Vanillix and Sandslash as well, so that's pretty cool. It could potentially have Wyndham games, and Vanillix could set up the Hail, and Lone Sandslash could set up Aurora Veil too, which is pretty common in audio to PU, to where you have the Hail setter, and those Hail setters can't manually set up Aurora Veil, but you have Lone Sandslash, like a bulky variant, to set up the Aurora Veil to support too, and this game is already very bulky enough, and with that Aurora Veil support, it can actually be very, very nasty, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I have this team at number 1 for a reason. I absolutely adore this team. Like, there's not one mon that I think, you could swap it out. Like, you do make a good case, like dropping Zangoose for Stoutland would be alright to improve the sand matchup, but to improve like having a sand core. But I think that Zangoose being able to function without Mega Tyranitar is very, very good for the team. Stoutland would provide an Intimidate support, but he's got Krookodiles for that, and yeah, like, just the entire team I just think is very, very good, and having that Hail mode, like, just drafted right at the end, I think is very cheeky, and yeah, really, really love this team. Yeah, can't say much more than that.
One with, I think we forgot to mention, but Latios being the Z-move captain, and same with Latios with the Lola and Nido Queen. So Latios is a fantastic Z-user in my opinion. It's not as powerful as Latios, but still fantastic, because it has fantastic coverage. Calm Mind plus Z-move is very good. I believe it can run some niche Z status moves in like Z Safeguard, which I believe boosts speed. It's also got like Tailwind support as well, which is kind of cool. So overall, really like this draft. So, congrats, great job to Levine. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. Got anything else to add?
Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. Like, other than like continuing to gush over this draft, I don't think that there's much more that I can say. So we'll move on to both our number 2s, the SL Banefica, which I think, what's the team there? I think that this team is very, very phenomenal. Like, being able to baton pass speed into Victini and Hydreigon is very, very good. Being able to also pass it into something slow like Mega Blastoise is something that a lot of teams can't really, like, they have to prepare for, even though it might not be coming. I think Scolipede just gives the team a lot of different options. Z-move on Porygon Z is very, very cheeky because you can be running the plain old Z conversion set, but you can also mess around by going for a Breakneck Blitz off of Hyper Beam, and also any one of the coverage moves that PZ does get. Hazard Control, I think, is... I think it's alright, having both Megastoise and Hitmonlee as spinners. Yeah, Hitmonlee, outside of Hitmon, like, unlike Hitmonchan, does have its uses. It does have a reckless high jump kick and everything, so I don't think that Hitmonlee is that much of a waste of a draft, as much as I think Hitmonchan is, but yeah. Really, really cool team. Yeah, you wanna take it?
If I'd like to add on, Hazard support isn't the best, and the Zmon, well, Porygon I do like as a Zmon. I just feel like Hydreigon would have been a better Zmon in my opinion. But, Porygon Z is very, it's justified, but what I can say about this team is bad and very hard to deal with, I guess, because Victini is actually it's hard to actually decently bulky because the Pixie monster based on defenses. Hydralion is decently bulky, Shaman is bulky, Hippowdon bulky, Aromatisse bulky, Miss Magus not exactly, but it has support moves to help, I guess. Everyone at Magaton, maybe. Mega Blastoise is pretty fat too. And, coupled with Aromatisse's Wish support, and Aromatisse can't be taunted either. So Wish support can be spread to the team. And while speed tiers aren't the best, Scolipede doing speed passes into Mega Blastoise, Victini, or Hydreigon, even PZ, like a nasty plot PZ with Z move, that's very, very scary, and that's very hard to deal with. And so maybe structurally, it's like maybe on paper, it's like not the best team, but Scolipede's baton pass with his wall breakers makes it a whole other story, and he's also got a very good momentum game with U-turn Victini, U-turn Hydreigon, baton pass Scolipede, and Volt Switch Magneton, and I just like this team a lot, and I think he can suit Hera very, very well, and I'm glad he got to draft the team this season.
Yeah, seeing what he did with the team last season, that he didn't draft, like, top 4 with someone else's draft, I'm absolutely fascinated to see how he goes with something from his own mind. And then, yeah, do you have anything else that you want to add to Hera's team?
Let's see. I guess he's gonna have to rely on Hippowdon to set up rocks. I mean, he does have spikes in toxic spikes and Scolipede, but I think the draft just the offensive presence with baton pass Scolipede just very easily puts it very high on this list. I guess that's pretty much it.
Yep. Yeah, agree on that. Like, the hazard support, like, he doesn't necessarily need it because he can pass speed into things that can absolutely crush whatever wants to come in with or without hazards. Like, that does mean that some cheeky focus dashes can like stop his sweep, but I think that's a fine price to pay for having a +2 speed Mega Blastoise out on the field. Yeah, so moving on to your number 1, my number 3, so our 1s and 3s are swapped. We have the Grimsby Town Grimers. So, you want to take this?
Yeah. The Grimsby Town Grimers, this is coached by Blue, which is the defending champion right now. And what I can say of this draft is it's very phenomenal. Megalop, very, very good Pokemon. It can pose as a late game cleaner, and can potentially wall break depending on the team, but it does need help with wall breaking. And he definitely has that with things like Rose Raid, which can set up spikes and T-Specs to help break things down. And he's got things like Tyranitar and Excadrill, which can wall break for him to where Megalopody can late game clean. Also, that Suncore is very threatening, which teams are going to have to prep for. Togekiss is a good default, and also Excadrill and Togekiss very solid hazard removal. Some of the best hazard removals in draft league format, in my opinion. Slowbro, very good defensive pivots with Regenerator. Can actually hit decently hard, maybe even like a Life Orb Trick Room set. And Trick Room support could work with this team, Slowbro, Togekiss, Tyranitar, some of his other Pokemon like Druddigon, Whopping as the cleaner for the Trick Room. Spiritomb, I actually like Spiritomb a lot. It's very good, and he does have a bit of fairy weakness, but he can patch it up with things like Rose Raid and Rotom Heat, which he also has. He's also got decent hazard support with like Druddigon, Tyranitar, Excadrill, Rose Raid to set up the rocks. The Ride Shipping is a little redundant because he has Rotom Heats, but I guess that's alright. Jinx is pretty cool. it can hit decently hard. Set of a nasty block, help Mega Lock clean. Just a very, very good draft overall. Very, very powerful. The Z-Tyranitar is a little interesting, but it's a fair pick because, Tyranitar is also very good offensively. You can, if you predict right, you can, go for a Z-Airless on a Buzzwole, because normally the Buzzwole is checked Tyranitar, but, you just predict in Z-Airless, and, it's a very good draft, very powerful draft. It's going to be very hard to deal with, and I definitely see Blue Rogue maybe even picking up back-to-back titles this league, or this season, or whatever.
I will say, in regards to the Tyranitar Z move, I think that dedicating that as his Z move mon means that he's probably not going to be clicking that Z move button a lot this season, because Tyranitar, what makes it really good is that it can run a huge variety of items. It could be Chople, it could be Roselli Berry, it could be Assault Vest, it could be Scarf, it could be Band, and I think that any other item can get the job done for Tyranitar better than any Z move. I think the Z move would be better on Excadrill or even Rotom Heat, and that's pretty much the only reason why I have them at number 3 as opposed to number 1. Just that is I think it is a waste of a Z move slot. What else was I going to say about the team? Yeah, I do also agree that having Raichu on the team is not very productive for it. I think that there could be another Z move, another tier 5 mon that he could draft and get a little more use out of, because Raichu doesn't really do anything new outside of maybe a Fierce set of Endeavor and Quick Attack. Like Sash Endeavor, Quick Attack. The team does have kind of a weakness to fairy types as well as a kind of a weakness to ground types. However, I think having Slowbro on your team makes all weaknesses kind of redundant, because Slowbro is just such a fat mon that it can take very, very strong hits and then switch out and get most of that health back with Regenerator. So yeah, I do think that this team is top 3. I don't think that it's necessarily deserving of top spot, but the top 3 teams are all just absolutely phenomenal drafts and a cut above the rest. Sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. And I think the reason I chose the Grimsby Grandmas over the Boston Kommo-o and the SO Banefica is just because of the first 6 Pokemon are just very, very good, and then the last 5 can come once in a while, and just the first 6 mons very, very hard to prep for. Granted, so are the Boston Kommo-o and the SO Banefica, but in my opinion, we have Sand plus Mega Lock plus really fat Togekiss and Slowbro plus Hazard Sport Rose Raid. That's very, very hard to prep for, and in my opinion, it's what sets them above. Granted, I feel like the SO Banefica could have been ahead of the Grimsby Grandmas, but I just like the draft better. But that's pretty much, yeah.
One thing that we'll actually add on to, something that I really like, and something that I see quite a lot in draft leagues, is that whoever drafts Togekiss will normally be drafting Tyranitar alongside it. They just have such good defensive synergy between the two. And this has been no exception, and this team is really, really good on that side. Yeah. So, do you have anything else that you want to add about any of the teams? Something that we kind of glossed over that you want to come back to, or?
I think we've covered everything, and I'm not exactly sure how long we talked for, and, I think we've said what we needed to say. There are probably a little bit of things we missed, and maybe some things that could have maybe set teams, the rankings, I guess. I don't know. I think we did a good job, but, I think the last thing that I can say is good luck to all the coaches and I hope for a wonderful season this time, the PMC, and I'm just looking forward to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, while I was a little harsh on like some of the lower tier drafts, like lower ranked drafts rather, there is not a bad draft in this league at all. Like, they're all very, very good, and so we've got a pretty good season ahead of us for this season of the PMC. So yeah, like, good luck to all the players, and yeah, have a good one, I guess.